So a little while ago, I posted a picture of my pedal board on Instagram and I asked people which pedal they were the most interested in, and a lot of people were sliding into my DMs about my swollen pickle. This, you sickos! This is a bizarre pedal. It has confounded many a bass player, myself included, probably in no small part due to the fact that none of the labels on the controls are all that helpful, and it has 7 knobs. Yeah, 7. 5 here on the front, and then 2 inside of the rear enclosure once you pop the back off. It's the kind of pedal that really requires you to understand it. It's not one that you can just twiddle a couple of knobs in, dial in exactly what you need, and then forget about it. You have to really spend some time with it and get to know it pretty intimately. It reacts really differently depending on what kind of an amp you put it through and what other pedals you have around it. But if you have the patience, you can dial in just about any fuzz tone you can imagine. If you're not patient, you'll probably get frustrated, but leave it on your board for 10 years and then kind of forget about it, but then want to use it every once in a while, but then it doesn't work with anything that you try and do, but you're lazy, so you never end up replacing it with something that'll actually work. Not me, somebody else. It's a friend of mine. He goes to a different school. You wouldn't know him. Anyway, I know this pedal has great tones in it because I've heard people get great stuff out of it, so I knew that it was possible. First thing I did though was I went and I read the entire manual. At a whopping 2 pages, I didn't find anything that was all that helpful. Way too much of what's in there is just sort of like marketing flavor text, which is sort of fun, but not all that helpful if you want to really understand what everything does. Sustain releases masses of violent heavy fuzz. Or filter adjusts the range of heavily bandpass filtered tones? I'm sure that makes sense to someone, but it definitely doesn't to me. So not only are the descriptions weird, but the manual doesn't ever explain how the knobs really interact with each other, which is a really big part of making the swollen pickle work. There are some pretty complex relationships going on between these different parameters, and a page of cute marketing stuff it just ain't gonna cut it for me. We have to go deeper. I'm talking all the way to page 2 of the Google search results. What I found there was a forum post by user Falloffthebonetone on a Seymour Duncan forum. I'll link his post down below, but it helped me immensely, especially the method that he explains on how to set this thing up knob by knob. From his post, I was able to better understand the tone, but also dial in exactly what I was looking for, which in my case was something akin to like the Mikey Shoes Queens of the Stone Age fuzz tone. So let's go through the controls one by one, starting with the loudness control. This is obviously your volume, but worth noting is that you have an enormous amount of headroom. You'll often find that you don't have to push it up much past 11 o'clock, but what that allows you to do is push the signal really hard and drive an amp. It also gives you a lot of flexibility depending on how you set the other knobs, but the flip side of that is that minor adjustments make a big difference, and that's a theme that you're gonna see throughout this pedal. Next, the other big knob we have is the sustain control, which will allow you to dial in the intensity or amount of fuzz. Similar to your volume control, you have a ton of headroom. Most of the time you're not gonna push it past like 11 or noon, but this does give you a lot of flexibility and a lot of headroom to play with. All right, so those two are pretty straightforward, but don't let that lull you into a false sense of security. You're gonna look at this filter knob and say, hey, well, if we have volume and we have fuzz, then surely that's tone. Wrong, it's not. The filter knob is weird. Most of the time you'll wanna start with this thing at noon, and moving it to the left is not only going to roll off treble, but it's going to add bass. And similarly in the opposite direction, you're going to reduce bass, but boost treble. So not quite a tone control. It also plays kind of funky with the sustain knob when we get into actually like messing with the dials, you see what I mean. So that brings us to the 2 smaller knobs, the scoop and crunch. Now the scoop knob controls the mids. All the way to the left will scoop it a lot, all the way to the right brings it back to flat. The crunch on the other side is actually more of a compression knob. Every overdrive and fuzz pedal is going to compress your signal to some degree, but this allows you to dial in how much compression you get. All the way to the left gives you less compression and it gives it more of like an open character. and as you move it to the right, it squashes it, but also kind of gives it more of like a splatty, sputtery sort of quality. I find that the crunch knob interacts the most bizarrely with the other controls. It can be kind of finicky, but we'll get there. For those of you keeping track, that's 5 knobs, meaning we have 2 more to go, but those are only accessible once we take off the back panel and get inside using a screwdriver. Don't laugh. Size doesn't matter. Evelyn, tell them size doesn't matter.
Not again.
Now, just for the record, this doesn't require adult supervision, but if you want to have somebody watch you, it could be fun. Ooh. All right, these knobs are tiny, but over here you have the clip, and then over here you have the voice. Essentially, what the clip does is it allows you to sweep between 2 different clipping diodes. All the way to the left gives you a smoother sort of fuzz, and all the way to the right gives you sort of a jagged, almost splatty sort of character. Over here, the voice allows us to set the range of the scoop control on the front. So if we go all the way to the left, it'll give us more scoop, and all the way to the right, less scoop. Less scoop. Now, directly from the factory, you're gonna get both of these knobs set all the way to the left, which is not ideal for bass. And I think that that's part of why a lot of people have been frustrated by this, is because they either did not know that these existed or never changed them. Okay, so that's all the knobs and more or less what they do. Let's get this thing plugged in and start fiddling around with them. Okay, so the first thing we need to do to get this pedal set up is to set all of the knobs to a somewhat neutral position. So what I like to do is turn the volume, the loudness, and the sustain all the way down. Put the filter and the scoop and the crunch all at noon, straight up. And then we'll start from the rear controls. Oh, and I guess I should also give you, I'll turn this up just a bit, my clean tone on my bass here. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do is adjust the clip control. As I said before, all the way to the left will give us a more smooth tone, so let's actually engage the pedal right now. And we'll just have to adjust volume as needed. So right now we got nothing. I'm gonna sneak under here and turn this up just a bit. I think this is their volume. Yeah, that's the volume. And we'll go until that gets us enough to... Okay, so that's with the knob all the way to the left. Let's push it about halfway. And we'll just keep going a little more. Give myself a little more monitor. And then we'll push it all the way. Again, all the way back to the other side. And this will be a more dramatic change once we get everything else dialed in, but just knowing that one side, or the left side, is a more smooth, the other side is a little bit more jagged and glitchy, so we'll dial it in there. We can always come back and adjust it later. I'm going for smooth, so I'm going to set it all the way to the left. So let's do the same thing on this voice control. So this is the factory setting that you'll get at brand new if you were to go buy this. You can hear that that's reduced our mids quite a lot. So we'll turn it up to about halfway. Bringing it back, and then we'll just go all the way. Okay, and I actually happen to like it there, but I know a lot of people will dial that back just a hair. Actually, I kind of like it there. Okay, so step one is we have these two set the way that we like it, and then we're gonna flip this over and start making adjustments on the front of the pedal. If you're following along at home, don't put the back on the pedal just yet. In fact, I would wait until you're just completely done because there's a good chance that you'll want to go back in and adjust those two trim pots later. So moving back to the front of the pedal. Okay, we're gonna start with the crunch knob, and as we turn it to the right, it gets more compressed. And then as we turn it to the left, it opens up. I'm kind of digging it right there for now. Make sure that our sound isn't clipping. Yeah, and you will definitely need to adjust volume as you go through here, because the output of this pedal is going to change dramatically over as you adjust everything else. But we're going to just still leave our sustain basically all the way off. Okay, the next thing that we'll want to do is adjust the scoop control. And again, this is our mids selector. I like to just push it to the right because I like a lot of mids in my sound. I'll play that as I sweep through there. All the way to the right. We'll take it back to the left. I'm going to push it to about 3 o'clock. Okay, so now we can start turning up the gain or the sustain. See that the output is changing really dramatically as we're doing that. So I'm just going a little bit at a time, backing off the volume as we go. Now you can hear at this point, it kind of seems to be running into a ceiling on itself. It's like it's overdriving itself a little bit too much. I'm kind of liking what I'm getting there. Let's see, what is that? Okay, so if we're pretty happy with that, I'm going to back this off just a bit. And at this stage, you can decide whether you want more low end and just adjust the filter knob from noon where we've got it. And I'll sweep through those as we go too here. All the way to the left. There's all the way to the right. You get kind of that broken speaker sort of sound. I think I'm going to leave it at about 1 o'clock there. Grab a pick here so I can check. Because again, what I'm going for is more of the Mikey Shoes tone from My God Is the Sun. That's kind of the thing that I was going for. Okay, so let's see what this does. Okay, at this stage I kind of want to check and see where my clean signal is at and make sure that we're not going too crazy outside of where that's at. So I'm going to disengage the pedal. Looks like we're getting pretty nice even waveforms. I feel like I want a little more attack on that, so I'm going to adjust the filter control up. Let's look at back inside here and say I want to just push this a little bit more, just to get it a little bit more gnarly on the mids. Just a touch, and I think I want to reduce my filter a little more. Okay, that sounds pretty dang cool to me right there, but we could do anything we wanted to at this point. In fact, let's go completely the other way and see how glitchy we can get. So what I'm going to do is change the clip all the way to the other side. I'm going to return all of these to their neutral positions. And then we'll take our crunch all the way here. See how it's kind of like hitting itself there a little bit? So we'll just leave it about there. It's almost more synthy here, right? So if we go take the scoop pretty far down and then give ourselves a little bit more gain here. Reduce the volume a little bit here and then push the filter here. So then you have a completely different character on your fuzz. Now it's a little bit more like glitchy and jagged. So if we push the sustain even more. So let's say I'm not real happy with how much of a ceiling that's got, so we're going to reduce the crunch back down to about here. Wow, that's actually like massive sounding. Let's push this all the way. Ooh, we're getting to some like synthy territory here. Let's push a little bit more low end into that. A little more even. I feel like we're hitting the ceiling a bit. Give us some more mids again. That is wild. If we do a lower. The attack on that feels almost like 8-bitty a little bit, like the chirp that it's got on there. Almost kind of gives you like a bit crusher, just kind of close to that. I could actually use that sound in one of the recordings that I did with my band recently. I did exactly that. I put a bit crusher on the sound. It kind of gives it this like glitchy sort of 80s vibe. It's pretty cool, and this is that sound. But instead of a bit crusher, it's a fuzz, so it's a little bit different character, but it's kind of that same vibe. Push this all the way. Ooh, I don't know if you guys noticed what happened there, but as I pushed the scoop all the way to the end, it really like pushed my attack forward. So if you were ever having problems like being heard in a mix, this is probably going to be your best friend. You just want to crank that all the way to the right, and then that will help you not get lost in the sea of guitars. Let's turn the compression all the way on and reduce the gain a bit. So you can hear it kind of like hitting that ceiling a bit. Let's crank the fuzz. Reduce our volume a little bit so we don't destroy ourselves. It's a little more low end into that. All right, so I'm gonna go back to what the settings are that I'll probably end up using. I'm gonna take the clip control and take it all the way back to smooth, all the way to the end. I'm gonna leave voice all the way to the right. I want as much mids as I can get. Here on the front, I'm gonna take the sustain here to about 11 o'clock, put the filter back at noon, as well as these other two controls here. Let's see what we're at. More of that. I want a little more open sounding, so let's ease up on that compressor a bit. Give us just a little more there. So I'm pretty satisfied with that. I think that is more or less where I'm going to use it from here on out. So that's it. That's how you set up the Swollen Pickle to do anything you want. It's not a simple pedal, and it does require a little bit of experimentation to get it to do exactly what you want. But with this method, I think you can pretty comfortably dial in just about any kind of fuzz that you need. Conceptualizing the knobs in this way, starting from the back and working to your front, is a really great way to build everything from the ground up. It also helped me a lot understanding the relationship between all of the different parameters. Hit the like button if this also helped you, and at this stage in messing with the pedal, it's probably pretty safe to put the back on it and then just continue to fine-tune things on the front. By the way, if you're annoyed that you can't access those internal pots from the outside, there does exist a mod. You can send a pedal into this company and they will drill some holes into the face of it and put the knobs where you can access them more easily. One thing that I found in experimenting with this is that the Swollen Pickle reacts very, very differently depending on what sort of an amp you're going into. In fact, if I were to just change up the amp model that I'm running here over on Logic, it sounds like a completely different pedal. It also does some really interesting things when you start stacking other effects with it. I'm going to do a pedal board demo at some point and show you how it interacts with all the other pedals I have, so be sure to subscribe and hit the bell to get notified when that video goes up. I've been uploading a video every Monday, and if my mental health sustains, then I'll be able to keep doing that for the foreseeable future. I am AMP the bass player, and boy howdy do I need a nap. I can't walk away like I normally would. I'm like plugged into so many stupid things. I'm just gonna stand here awkwardly and let the... We're done, go away.